Crawford is thinking about leaving Top Rank and signing with Haymon and PBC per advice from Floyd Mayweather Jr. Now, once again, this was reported by Mike Coppinger of The Athletic, and this is what spurred all of this, right? Now, obviously, Floyd has bad blood with Mr. Bob Arum and didn't even want to make the Manny Pacquiao fight because of his affiliation with the Top Rank CEO, right? So this is what Floyd Mayweather Jr. recently had to say about Terence Crawford in an interview with NFL's Shannon Sharpe. He said this about Terence Crawford being ranked below Lomachenko on most critics' pound-for-pound list. Quote, I look at guys like Terence Crawford. Terence Crawford can be a lot bigger than he is right now. This shows that racism still exists. How can you say that Lomachenko is better than Terence Crawford? Not at all, in my opinion. Not in a million years. End quote. You know that he's been in the ear, and what I want to know is what does he have to gain from this? Apparently, it's been rumored that he's been in the ear of Terence Crawford, urging him to leave Top Rank and Bob Arum, claiming that it's the only way to get that fight made with Errol Spence Jr. Now, I can't divulge which fighter told me this, but it's a PBC fighter, or at least one when he was actively participating in the sport of boxing. Now he's a commentator, I'll give you that hint. And he once told me, he said, look, Haymon is a man of his word, but he will say things to try and hook you into signing with him, basically saying things like, look, I can't guarantee that I can get you this fight with Errol Spence Jr., but I will guarantee that you will never get that fight unless you sign with us. He told me that that's the way he operates. That's how he actually hooked Manny Pacquiao into signing an advisory deal with him, as well as Amir Khan, as well as the gentleman that I'm talking about, right? So do you think that's what was said to Terence Crawford? I can almost guarantee that he did say that. And do you think it's a wise move at this juncture of his career?
I don't think so. But I would have said no to Floyd Mayweather as well. So it worked out for Floyd, but it doesn't mean it'll work out for everyone. I think they're doing great. And as far as fighting Errol Spence, if the public wants it, it's going to happen, period. The public wants it, it's going to happen. There'll be no problem with Spence versus Crawford if the public wants it. So, if he's worried about that, then he shouldn't be. He shouldn't be worried about that at all. Right now, Top Rank is doing a great job with him. There's a big contract with ESPN. They've keeping him active. With Al Haymon, we've had a problem with these fighters sort of going to sleep, like Danny Garcia, once every 8 or 9 months fighting, and they're out of public consciousness. You don't want that to happen. You want to keep these fights. You want to keep these TV dates. Keep showcasing, these fighters. I think right now Top Rank is better equipped to do that. Maybe 7 out of 10 times or 8 out of 10 times. So I would stay with them.
I think you're absolutely right, and I think he's going to stay with Top Rank Inc. But I think he's going to do exactly what Tim Bradley decided to do. When Tim Bradley's contract was up at the tail end of his career, everyone was urging him to jump ship. And keep in mind, Tim Bradley's manager is Terence Crawford's manager, Cameron Duncan, right? So everyone was urging him, hey, you know what? That's where all the talent is. If you want to fight with Floyd Mayweather, you're going to have to sign with Al Haymon. Plus, there's so many more options for you to fight. And Tim Bradley looked at the situation. He looked how Bob Arum, Bruce Trampler, Cameron Duncan had navigated his career up to that point, and he said, you know what? As long as Manny Pacquiao is still under the Top Rank banner, no, I'm good. I'm going to stay right here. and he ended up getting 3 fights with Manny Pacquiao. Obviously, Terence Crawford doesn't have that luxury of Manny Pacquiao fighting under the Top-Rank promotional banner, but he is making just as much as Tim Bradley made per fight, which was roughly around $5 million. Lee, how many other welterweights under Al Haymon's roster list, on Al Haymon's client roster, how many welterweights are making as much as Terence Crawford currently? I can think of 2, Errol Spence Jr. and Manny Pacquiao. That's it.
That's it.
Okay, so greener pastures? Not so sure about that. I think you're absolutely right. Now, think about this also. If he signed an advisory contract with Al Haymon, boy, that's a lot of hands in his pockets. Then he still has to, once again, he's still under contract with Top Rank. That means you're going to have Bob Arum dipping into his pocket, Cameron Duncan, Brian McIntyre as trainer and manager, and then now you've got Al Haymon. Yeah, I don't think I don't think Warren Buffett would advise that that's a good idea.
No.
So, in my opinion, I think you're absolutely right. I think this is just a rumor. I think TC stays put, and you're absolutely right. If the fans demand it, once again, Manny Pacquiao was still signed with Top Rank Inc. and Bob Arum when he hit the jackpot with the big Mayweather fight.
Right. Right. I mean, and I think that we also talked about, too, that same old round-robin thing. He's going to join Porter and Garcia and Thurman in that round, that round-robin where they're all sort of fighting each other. Porter versus Garcia versus Thurman, Porter versus Thurman. I mean, if should he sign with Al Haymon, I think you have that scenario where he becomes another one of those fighters in that round robin. The only caveat, Joseph, is, there is still Manny. Is still there. Is he more likely to get that fight with Pacquiao now? Maybe, because that may not be a fight the public demands, but, is Al Haymon saying, hey, you know what? You can get Manny. And that's obviously a big, big fight. That's a passing of the torch fight, potentially. So that might be the only thing where, he may be holding Manny over him instead of Errol Spence. Who knows? Or both of them.
Well, I guarantee that's the discussion, saying, hey, you know what? Once again, and this is how Al Haymon operates, you know what? I can't guarantee that you're going to get both those fights, but I can guarantee you that you absolutely won't unless you sign with us. You know what? That's right out of the Don King playbook, brother.
Right. But that's untrue as it relates to Errol Spence. That's just not true. As it relates to Manny Pacquiao, it might be because that's not a fight that people are. It's a good matchup, but the people are, the big fight in that division is Spence versus Crawford. So I think in one case it could be true, one case it's not true.
Well, I think like you said, and you see, this is the thing that frustrates me the most. All of these fighters on the PBC roster, they're all free agents. This shouldn't be even a discussion. There's nothing stopping Errol Spence from competing on ESPN pay-per-view against Terence Crawford. He has no contractual obligation to any promotional outfit, nor does he have any contractual obligation to any network. He's free to fight wherever he wants. He's the boss. He even stated that a few weeks ago. So, yeah, this is really frustrating for me as a boxing fan, as well as someone who is primarily interested in the positive health of the sport. So, yeah, really tired of seeing an obstructionist stand in the way of great interpromotional fights being made.
Exactly.
Sick to death of seeing this tired 147-pound round robin. What are we going to see next? Sean Porter versus Errol Spence Jr. in a rematch after the Danny Garcia fight? No, thank you.
That's it.
No, thank you. Sick to death of seeing it. Jeez, my goodness. You know what?
But on the bright side, you got Virgil Ortiz coming up.
That is true. That is true, and that's a fight And that's a fight that can be made if Golden Boy Promotions doesn't, patch up the tumultuous relationship currently with DAZN. That could easily be a fight that De La Hoya makes with Bob Arum. Or we could see Jaron Ennis possibly fight for Crawford's title, because even though he's fought on Showtime several times, he's not with Al Haymon and PBC. He's under a different promotional contract. So we could very well see that on ESPN as well. But, guys, we're going to go ahead and move on. Racism still exists in boxing. My word.